You wake up, and for maybe 3 seconds, before you remember your name, your job, your problems, you're just awake, eyes opening, body breathing, light coming through the window, life happening without commentary. And then the machine turns on. You remember who you are, what you need to do today, why that matters, the emails waiting, the goals you're behind on, the version of yourself you're supposed to become. And you spend the rest of the day turning every moment into a task, every breath into progress towards something else, every sensation into proof that you're not wasting your one precious life. There's this exhaustion that doesn't come from your body. It comes from a constant sense of debt, like you're always owing a better version of yourself, like just existing isn't enough. You have to justify it. And I think most of us are tired for the same reason. Not because life is hard, but because we've turned every single moment into a performance, into something that needs to matter, into evidence that we're doing it right. This video is about something different. It's about the moments in between, the ones that don't go anywhere, don't teach anything, don't make you better. The moments you've been trained to call wasted time. Because those moments, they might be the only ones that are actually real. There's this thing that's become the religion of our time. It has commandments: optimize, accelerate, produce, prove, post, measure. It has sins: pause, boredom, delay, silence. And it has a promise of salvation. One day, you'll be so efficient that you'll finally get to live. The problem is that one day is a trick. It keeps moving. You tell yourself, when I finish this project, then I'll rest. When I hit this goal, then I'll start living. When I buy that thing, then I'll let myself be happy. When I have time, then I'll be myself again. Notice the pattern. Life is always on the other side of a door, and the key is always some achievement you haven't reached yet. So you wake up every day and put on this heavy costume. Your name, your career, your ambitions. You believe you need to be someone. But underneath all that, you're just life pulsing, just a thing that's alive. And the exhaustion comes from trying to maintain the performance of that someone every waking hour. Let me tell you about a writer who understood this with uncomfortable precision. Clarice Lispector, Brazilian, born 1920. When she was 6 years old, her family killed a chicken for dinner. She watched them cut its head off, and for about 5 seconds, the chicken kept running, headless. No brain, no future, no purpose. Just a body doing what bodies do. And decades later, she wrote that she envied that chicken. Because for those 5 seconds, it was more alive than any human she'd ever met. It wasn't thinking about tomorrow, wasn't searching for meaning, wasn't trying to justify existing, just pure presence, pure movement. And then it fell over. She spent 60 years trying to get back to those 5 seconds. When she was 7, she broke an egg to cook it, and she stood there staring at the yolk, just watching, not analyzing, just seeing. Her mother asked what she was doing, and she said, "I'm seeing the egg as it is, not as breakfast, not as protein, not as ingredient, just the thing itself before language turns it into category." And she said later, "I was more real in that moment than I've been in most of my adult life." Think about what that means. A child staring at an egg was more present, more alive than a celebrated author at the height of her powers. Why? Because the child hadn't learned yet that every moment needs to be useful. That existence requires justification. This became Clarice's obsession. How do you stay in contact with raw life before you process it into meaning? And what she discovered is uncomfortable. We spend our entire lives cooking our experiences, taking raw moments and immediately turning them into lessons, narratives, stepping stones towards something else. Something good happens. You immediately think, how do I make this last? How do I photograph it? How do I turn it into a memory I can keep? Something bad happens. What's the lesson? How does this make me stronger? What does this mean about my journey? Nothing happens. I'm wasting time. I should be doing something productive. And in all that processing, you lose the thing itself. Here's a simple example. You're outside and you notice the sunlight. Really notice it. The warmth on your skin, the brightness. And for 2 seconds, you're just there, feeling it. And then your brain kicks in. This is nice. I should come outside more often. I need to remember this. And the moment you do that, it's gone. You've turned raw sensation into mental note, into resolution, into something useful for later. You killed the moment by trying to possess it. This is what Clarice meant by living raw instead of cooked. Not analyzing everything, not transforming every feeling into productivity. Just letting things touch you without immediately processing them into meaning. But we can't do that. We've been trained that moments without obvious purpose feel like death, like failure, like proof we're wasting our lives. So the second we have a gap, waiting room, stuck in traffic, lying awake at 3 a.m., we panic. We grab our phone. We make mental to-do lists. We fill the silence with anything except silence, because emptiness feels like an error in the system. But the emptiness isn't an error. The emptiness is where you actually meet yourself. If you pay attention to how people tell stories, you'll notice something. They almost always highlight the peaks. The trip gets reduced to the most beautiful day. The relationship gets reduced to the most intense phase. The career gets reduced to the award, the title, the victory. But life isn't made of peaks. Peaks are rare. They have to be rare to matter. If everything is climax, nothing is climax. And yet, we try to live like existence should be a sequence of peaks. We try to turn daily life into a movie trailer. We want dramatic music, plot twists, clear rewards. We want a narrative that guarantees nothing was in vain. But real life doesn't have editing. It has repetition, small adjustments, common days, nearly invisible changes. It has in-between. The interval is where life sustains itself, and it's exactly why we neglect it. Because it doesn't shout. It doesn't demand applause. It doesn't deliver instant dopamine. It just exists. And existing today feels like not enough. Here's what we lose when we live heavy. When every minute needs to justify itself. You wake up already feeling late for something you can't even name. You look at a calm afternoon and feel guilt, like peace is wasteful. You turn rest into a task. You need a reason to breathe. And when you live like this, even joy becomes rigid. You start seeking pleasure with the same anxiety you seek productivity. Fun becomes a checklist. Travel becomes content. Conversation becomes performance. The world becomes a stage, and you become your own manager. But nobody can be a manager 24 hours a day. Eventually, you collapse, or become cynical, or go numb. And then you conclude the problem is you, that you're weak, that you lack discipline, that you're not built to win. Maybe the problem isn't you. Maybe it's the script you were given. There's a strange thing about memory. We imagine we'll remember what was grandest, most epic, most intense. But in practice, most people hold on to something else. The smell of a place. A sentence said without intention. the late afternoon light on some random street, a song that played while nothing important was happening. Psychology research suggests we judge experiences by their peak moment and their ending. But the peak isn't always what seems intense at the time. Sometimes what marks us is precisely what wasn't trying to mark us. The interval has a special quality. It's not about something. It doesn't demand you be someone specific. It returns you to a form of presence without pressure. And when you're present without pressure, you notice. You notice your body. You notice the other person. You notice time passing. And when you notice, you create memory. Memorable life isn't the fullest life. It's the most perceived life. Let me give you some images. Not as rules, but as reminders of what the in-between actually looks like. The elevator descending. You're alone for 15 seconds. The silence feels like a small capsule outside of time. You finish an important call and stare at the dark screen, not ready to move yet. You close your laptop and your hands don't know what to do for a moment. You arrive home and stand at the door for 2 seconds before entering. The empty hallway after a party ends. Rain on the window while you're doing nothing. Coffee getting cold while you stare at nothing in particular. The moment between songs when you're not sure if the playlist ended. These are what I call between times. A kind of emotional corridor. You're not in what just happened anymore, and you haven't entered what comes next. It's a place without a defined role. And that's exactly why it scares us. Because between time has no mission, no objective, no clear next step. It just leaves you with yourself. And many of us learn to avoid that at any cost. We fill the elevator with our phone. We fill the walk with audio at 2x speed. We fill silence with notifications. We fill the interval with another task, as if the void were a malfunction. But the void isn't a malfunction. The void is the space where you find yourself. And it's not coincidence that in so many philosophical traditions, the space between things is treated as sacred, not from mysticism, from realism, because that's where the mind stops obeying and starts perceiving. Think about cinema. The films that stay with us aren't always the ones with the most explosions. Often, they're the ones with time. Time to look, time to breathe, time to hold a scene without rushing to cut. There's courage in filming someone walking without destination, or washing a dish, or looking out a window, because it goes against the modern impulse to turn everything into climax. But when a director does that, they're not filming nothing. They're filming life when it's not trying to justify itself. And maybe that's what we need to relearn, living without needing to prove we're living. Clarice noticed something about animals. She would watch dogs, chickens, cats, and she'd write about them with this mix of reverence and envy, because they don't seek meaning. They don't have narratives about themselves. They don't lie awake wondering if their life matters. They just live. A dog doesn't know it's going to die, doesn't plan tomorrow, doesn't regret yesterday. It's completely here, smelling this, feeling this, being this. And she wrote, "The dog doesn't need to justify being alive, because being alive is already complete. You used to be like that, before they taught you your name, before they told you what you're supposed to become, before you learned that every moment needs to count towards something. You were just life happening, and spending your whole life trying to be someone, to have purpose, make an impact, matter, is like spending your whole life reading recipes when there's food right in front of you. Here's a word we treat like an insult: boredom. Like being bored is moral failure, proof you didn't know how to make the most of it. But boredom is often just life clearing space for something else to appear. The human brain doesn't only create at peak stimulation, it creates in the interval. When the mind isn't gripped by urgent tasks, it starts making unexpected connections. An old idea links to a recent image. A memory meets a question. An insight appears in the middle of a walk. It's not coincidence that so many people have good ideas in the shower. The shower is an interval, a place where you can't optimize much, where the body takes over for a few minutes and the mind relaxes its grip. The problem is, we're living in a war against any interval. And when you eliminate boredom, you eliminate incubation. You eliminate the time for things to settle. You turn the mind into forced labor. That's why life feels heavy. Not because you're not doing enough, but because you're not letting anything rest. Before levity is an idea, it's a bodily experience. Notice where rigidity lives. It lives in your locked jaw, your raised shoulder, your shallow breathing, your clenched stomach, your sleep that won't come even when you're exhausted. Living in lockdown mode is living like you have to defend yourself from something constantly, sometimes from a boss, sometimes from an old fear, sometimes from a vague sense of inadequacy. And the body responds. It armors itself. It creates tension. It stays ready for danger that never arrives, but always seems possible. Levity, in this sense, is a practice of disarming. Not that you'll have no problems, but that you'll learn not to carry all problems simultaneously inside your chest, like they're a single stone. That's why the moments between things are so valuable. They're small chances to disarm, a chance to open your hand, a chance to drop your tongue from the roof of your mouth, a chance to breathe all the way through without interrupting. And this changes everything, because a body that breathes fully is a body that remembers it's alive now, not just after. Let me be clear about something. Living light doesn't mean becoming irresponsible. It doesn't romanticize lack of direction. It doesn't pretend nothing matters. Levity isn't absence of gravity. It's the skill of not being crushed by it. It's knowing you can be serious without being rigid. You can have ambition without becoming a walking project. You can build something significant without losing the ability to smile along the way. The word I like here is cadence. Cadence is the opposite of rush. It's rhythm you can sustain. It's how an experienced runner doesn't sprint every lap like it's the last. They distribute energy. They respect breath. They understand the body needs intervals. Life does too. The lock-in aesthetic has become our era's ideal, the image of absolute focus. But here's what few people admit. Sometimes lock-in is less about ambition and more about anesthesia. When you're hyper busy, you don't have to face certain questions. You don't have to face grief you postponed, loneliness that hurts, a choice you delayed, a desire that doesn't fit the life you're building. The task becomes shelter. Focus becomes hiding place. But a hiding place is also a prison. Because to hide from what hurts, you have to hide from what heals too. You distance yourself from genuine encounter, spontaneous laughter, the afternoon without agenda, the body asking for rest. And then you confuse hardness with strength. But hardness is just resistance to feeling. Strength is being able to feel without breaking. When you live always in lockdown mode, you lose two things simultaneously. First, you lose the world, because you only see what confirms your task. Everything else becomes distraction, and over time, everything becomes distraction. Second, you lose yourself, because you start existing only as a function of results. You don't live, you manage. You don't feel, you measure. And what happens when the result arrives? You discover it wasn't that, Or worse, you discover it was exactly that. And it still didn't fill anything, because meaning doesn't get purchased with intensity. Meaning gets built through conscious repetition, through presence, through relationships, through how you inhabit common days. Lock-in can produce achievements, but it doesn't guarantee significance. Significance lives somewhere else. It lives in bonds, small choices, moments that weren't trying to be grand. If you think about relationships that truly shaped you, you'll notice they're not made only of epic declarations. They're made of details. How someone holds your hand while crossing the street. The simple question that pulls you back when you're far away. The comfortable silence that doesn't need filling. Friendship doesn't happen at the peak. Love doesn't sustain only at the peak. Family doesn't build at the peak. What sustains is shared dailiness. The between of big conversations. The interval between one crisis and another. The time when nobody's proving anything. And this is almost heresy in our culture, because we've been trained to think what matters is the extraordinary. But the extraordinary, by definition, can't be the foundation. The foundation is the common. And the common, seen with care, is anything but common. Here's something practical. Not a formula, but some invitations. Small things, almost shy, that return life to where it was expelled from. First invitation, transition ritual. We usually live without boundaries. The meeting ends, and 2 seconds later, you're already answering messages. You get out of bed, and you're already at work. You close one cycle and open another without even noticing you closed. Transition is the name of the interval that gives meaning to movement. So create a transition can be simple. Wash your face before starting. Put your phone away for 5 minutes when you get home. Walk to the corner without audio. Change clothes with presence, like you're changing contexts. The ritual isn't superstition, it's signaling. You're telling your brain, one thing ended, another will begin, and in between, I exist. Second invitation, space without purpose. Not every space needs to become a goal. Choose a piece of your day that doesn't have to serve anything. 10 minutes at the end of the afternoon, looking at the sky. Coffee drunk slowly, without a screen. Reading without highlighting, without saving quotes, without turning into argument. This seems unproductive, and that's exactly why it's precious. Because it reminds you that you're not just a results machine, you're someone who feels. Third invitation, attention to the detail that doesn't ask for attention. Levity isn't born from the extraordinary. It's born from the gaze that perceives the ordinary. The sound of the house at night, how light hits the wall, the street noise after rain. You don't need to turn this into poetry. You just need to notice. Noticing is a quiet act of resistance, because the world wants to keep you distracted, to keep you anxious. Fourth invitation, social presence without performance. Some of the best conversations happen when nobody's trying to reach a point. A meeting without agenda. A friend you don't need to impress. A lunch where the most important thing is the digression. If you only relate through productivity, even affection becomes a task. And then, even surrounded by people, you remain alone. These invitations are small. And the small is, almost always, where life is hiding. Not every day needs to be productive. Not every conversation needs to yield something. Not every hobby needs to become monetization. Not every sadness needs to become a lesson. Not every joy needs to become a post. Sometimes the best thing you can do is allow an experience to just be an experience. And this takes courage, because we've been trained to justify everything, to show value, to explain why we deserve to be here. But you don't need to deserve a sunset. You don't need to deserve coffee. You don't need to deserve a calm afternoon. You just need to be. I want to end by returning to the initial idea. Life isn't only the grand act. Life is what happens when the grand act hasn't started yet, or when it's already over. Life is what remains after the applause. Life is what exists when you remove the camera, when you release the goal for a second, when you return to being a body in the world. If you live only for peaks, you'll become a tourist of your own existence, always arriving late to the present, always thinking about next. But if you learn to inhabit the intervals, you'll notice something simple and strange. Most of what you call life is precisely there, in the middle, in the now, in what's not trying to impress you. The intervals aren't just rest, they're orientation. It's in the middle of the path that you realize you're going the wrong direction. It's in the pause that you hear the discomfort you were drowning out. It's in the delay that you understand certain rush was fear, not destiny. Lockdown mode gives you velocity, but often steals your direction, because you run so focused on delivering that you don't ask. For what? The between moments are where questions appear. And honest questions are more valuable than quick answers. So if you're in a phase where everything feels heavy, maybe you don't need more strength. Maybe you need more space. Space where you don't need to be incredible, where you don't need to win, where you just need to return to being human. It's curious. We spend our whole lives trying to build freedom, but we forget that freedom begins in tiny gestures, like the courage not to fill every silence. When you feel that rigidity, again, that urgency, that weight, try this. Look at what's happening between one thing and another, and ask without rush, what am I letting pass? Because in the end, that's it. It's not about living locked down, it's about living alive. You wake up, and for 3 seconds, before you remember your name, before the machine turns on, you're just awake, just breathing, just here. And maybe today you could try to stay there a little longer, not cooking the moment into meaning, not processing it into productivity, not turning it into evidence of anything, just tasting it, just being in it, just letting it be insignificant. Because the insignificant moments, the ones you've been trying to minimize, those are the only ones that are real. The rest is narrative. The rest is performance. The rest is the story you tell about life instead of life itself. But this breath, this light, this quiet moment between things, this is it. This is the life you've been waiting to start. It already started. It's already here. You're just too busy searching to notice. So maybe stop searching, just for today, just for this moment, and see what's already here, waiting, insignificant, complete, alive.